Good morning, everybody. Good morning, all you magnificent melonheads of the world, and happy Thursday, everybody. Today is June 4th, 2025. And the top story this morning, stop me if you've heard this one. A couple of Chinese guys trying to make a germ in a lab. Oh, you have heard this one. That's right. You know, the whole global plague thing that, for a couple of months or a couple of years there, we weren't allowed to talk about what we all knew really happened there. And, still, I'm like, am I going to get booted off of YouTube if I talk about what we all freaking know happened in 2020? Yeah, they're apparently trying to do something similar again. Yep, this freaking decade and that freaking country. I don't know what to tell you guys. Yesterday, it was Fusarium graminearum. All right, can't pronounce it. Fusarium graminearum is this fungus that affects crops, mainly wheat, but also corn, barley, everything else. 2 Chinese nationals have been charged with smuggling it into the United States. Why? Oh, I'm sure it was just for furtherance of science, right? It blinded me with science. Let's have that playing in my head for another couple of weeks. One student at the University of Michigan has been arrested. Her boyfriend, who is in China right now, has also been charged. They probably won't be arresting him because China, with smuggling it into the country in 2024. Now, after initially lying about what it was, they eventually admitted that they were going to study the fungus at the University of Michigan. Both of these individuals are Chinese students. The one that was a student at University of Michigan was found to have a signed pledge of loyalty to the CCP on her phone. That's also, by the way, not all that rare. Apparently, Chinese students, before they come to study in the United States, most are expected to sign these pledges. And I guess that's not that really weird, considering we all cover our hearts and say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning at school also. So they're kind of making a big deal out of that pledge thing in the press. I don't think that's as big a deal. But the whole wheat fungus thing being smuggled into the country, yeah, that's a pretty big freaking deal. Look, this symptoms of this Fusarium graminearum, it causes billions of dollars in agriculture damage around the world. It is considered a risk of agroterrorism. Who had that on their 2020s bingo? When people ingest crops infected with it, it can cause everything from vomiting, diarrhea, liver damage, reproductive problems. That's fun. Put a pin in that one. We'll be back to that with the Japanese later on. Can also reduce crop yields. It harms livestock if it's fed to livestock. Hey, China, the whole diseases in a lab thing. Maybe you want to chill out on that for the rest of ever, considering what happened the last time. Or were we going to claim somebody ate a bat again? Was that the plan? Man, those bat eating guys are at it again. Just shucks. Jesus. What the hell are we doing, guys? This decade sucks. I mean, I don't even know how to cover this. And I'm just sitting here this was a punch in the stomach to read this story. And oh, yeah, China, let's be friends with them. Let's cut trade deals with them. Let's all play real nice in the sandbox as they smuggle wheat fungus into the country. By the way, China, I mean, have you really thought about this? Because the U.S. is one of the biggest food exporting countries in the world. And I get it. It's all about, let's harm the United States because World War III. I understand that. But have you looked at your own economy and your own food security, which, by the way, rivals that of a sub-Saharan banana republic? What do you think happens to your people if there is a widespread outbreak of some kind of crop disease in the United States that causes us to reduce our food exports? What do you think happens in your own country, your very food insecure country? What happens to your own people? Oh, that's right. You guys starved 60 million of your own people to death on purpose in the last century. Why not do it again this time? I forgot who I was talking to for a second there. Hey, China, keep it up. I love what you've done with the place. You guys are just freaking awesome. Now that is behind us, let's also talk about ADP Payrolls this morning. 37,000 jobs added in the United States economy versus expectations for 115,000. Big miss on ADP private payrolls. That's down from 60,000 last month. Look, ADP, it's not as important as the non-farm payrolls. We'll get that not next week. We'll get that on Friday, tomorrow. Hey, good morning. What day is it? We are seeing some nice wage gains, 4% plus for job stayers, close to 7% for job changers. So people are getting raises, and they are ever so slightly above the official inflation statistics. Although considering what tariffs are about to do, too little, too early, too late, whatever you want to say. But ADP was a big miss. The president is not happy. He took to Truth Social using his signature vernacular this morning, calling on too late Powell to cut interest rates, basically blaming the Fed for the lackluster jobs report. Must be nice. He's also on Truth Social talking about President Xi, saying how hard it is and how he's very tough to make a deal with. I don't know, maybe he's trying to use flattery to get Xi on the phone. Was this before or after the whole wheat fungus thing? I don't know. Call me crazy. I think agroterrorism, bioterrorism doesn't make me want to cut a deal any sooner. It's just my personal reaction to that. I kind of take that personally. I don't know. Like, no offense, we're trying to destroy crop yields and cause a global famine after causing a global health scare that led to the rise of totalitarianism all over the planet. Oh, sorry, no offense. Woo, what a morning we got this morning going on here. Also, Elon Musk was blasting Trump's big, beautiful bill yesterday. That was pretty interesting. He referred to it as a budget-busting abomination. And keep in mind, Elon is pissed. He spent the first quarter of the year trying to cut government spending. He destroyed hundreds of billions of dollars of his shareholders' value in the process. Not necessarily his fault. Well, I guess, yeah, it is his fault. When you wade into politics, you better be ready for what comes back. So, yeah, it is his fault. But he got nothing for it. All of the recommendations, everything Doge did, the Republicans in Congress just ignored it, threw it out, and then they increased government spending. They increased the deficit, and he's pissed about it. And, rightly so. Hey, Republicans in Congress, keep up the bad work. You guys doing just awesome. What else we got this morning? U.S. homeowners are drawing on their home equity lines of credit at a rate we have not seen in 17 years. Not since 2008 have we pulled so much money or have we so tapped into our home equity. Hey, anybody remind me, 2008, was that a good year? Did good things follow 2008 in the housing market? That's interesting. Maybe we'll come back to that one as well. We got Wells Fargo had their asset cap lifted. I guess they are off of punishment. They're no longer grounded after the whole fake account scandal. Fed left them off the hook yesterday. South Korean bond yields are rising this morning after a liberal was elected president in South Korea yesterday. And, well, that means more spending, more fiscal recklessness, government debt problems getting worse, and so borrowing costs are rising ahead of that. If the world was going to do something about its spending problem, they sure as hell have a funny way of showing it, don't they? See also the budget-busting abomination and Elon Musk's quote. We've got Dollar Tree versus Dollar General this morning. We got a story out about the different reactions of the two companies to their earnings. That's probably an interesting one. You guys are going to want to check that one out. Not all dollar stores are created equal, apparently. CoreWeave stock is just going absolutely meteoric. Why? I don't know. The company loses money. The company is actually burning money at double the rate they were just a few months ago. And now the stock is 4 times what it was a few months ago. And if somebody want to explain the math of that to me, I am all ears. But CoreWeave stock is rallying. They cut a deal with Applied Digital to rent $7 billion worth of data centers over the next 14 years, I think it was, or 15 years. But here's the thing. CoreWeave, who loses money, is going to rent a data center from Applied Digital, who loses money for $7 billion. So why are both stocks rallying on this news? Because neither company has the money to provide the good or services or cash that they're promising in this deal, which means both companies are going to have to raise more money or issue more shares in order to cover this deal. But you know what? Actually turning a profit. This is the 2020s, guys. We don't really worry about such petty details. Hype more, number go up. Just buy. Magnetar Capital will get rich, but I'm sure retail traders are going to end up doing great in the long run, just like in 2008 and the whole HELOC thing. That all ended very well. And last but not least, we've got Truth Social is applying for an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF. How does that work? How does a regulator who works for a sitting president possibly rule impartially on whether or not a sitting president's company is allowed to have a Bitcoin ETF? How do you do that without a conflict of interest? Don't answer that. You can't. It's just one of these things that's one of these unforced political errors that I think President Trump is going to regret, because Bitcoin winter is just over the horizon, guys. It's a few months away. And when that happens, presidents who hitch their wagon to Bitcoin will be dragged down with it. Guaranteed to happen. It's happened 3 times already, and there will be a 4th. We got a lot to talk about this morning. Why don't we shrink my big melon of a head and let's see what's going on in the world of finance. And if you will, please hit that like button and that subscribe button for the algorithm. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Come on back tomorrow. We do this one every day. Right now, the market is down a little. Well, it's actually up a point. Look at that. We managed to eke out a little positivity there. These big red arrows here, that was the ADP Payrolls report. The market reacted negatively to that. Now we are up by 4 points, 0.08% to the upside. The Dow is up 20 points, or again, a fraction of 1%, 0.05%. Big drop on that ADP Payrolls. Now we are grinding back a little bit of that. And the NASDAQ is up 10 points or 0.04%. So stocks going a whole bunch of nowhere at the moment here, although they all reacted negatively to that payrolls number. We've got a slightly weaker dollar here, 99.03. That is lower by 21 basis points this morning. Most of that also coming on the heels of that ADP Payrolls report. And then looking over at the bond market, we've got slightly lower yields, which means slightly higher bond prices here. The 30-year Treasury, 4.941. That is lower by 4 basis points. The 10 years at 4.416. That's off by 4.5 points. The 2 years at 3.922, lower by 3.5. And the 1 month is at 4.276, off by about 0.5 point here. So we got a little bit of bond buying going on this morning, sending those yields a little bit lower. Looking over at commodities, we're kind of quiet this morning in commodities. Gold is up by about $4 here, $3,357 for spot gold, up 0.13%. Spot silver not doing quite as well, 34.39. That's off by about 13 cents or 0.38%, but I like the shiny. Copper, meanwhile, is higher by 0.7%. Platinum's up by 1/3%. Palladium down 1.5%. And crude oil's a couple cents higher here, 14 cents to the upside, 63.52 for July WTI futures. Let's check in with Bitcoin. We are right about where we were yesterday, a little lower than yesterday, $105,010 as priced on Coinbase. That's saying we're off by about $400. We were a little over 106 at one point yesterday. We looked like we were threatening 107, but that didn't last long. Back to 105. Bitcoin continues to consolidate at this level. All right, let's talk about this story here. Here's the details of it, guys. Chinese nationals charged with smuggling fungus into Michigan. Gee, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a fungus smuggler, says nobody ever except these 2 androgynously named Chinese nationals. In Detroit, 2 people were charged with allegedly smuggling a fungus into America, claiming it was for studying at the University of Michigan, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Michigan. United States Attorney Jerome F. Gorgon reports that Yongqing Juan, it's not Juan, that's Juan, 33, and Junyang Liu, 34, citizens of the People's Republic of China, were charged with a criminal complaint with conspiracy, smuggling goods into the United States, false statements, and visa fraud. Hey, how about a little bit of espionage, agroterrorism while we're at it? According to the complaint, Liu initially lied, but later admit to smuggling the fungus into America through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport so that he could conduct research with his girlfriend at a laboratory at the University of Michigan. The fungus, called Fusarium graminearum, is the most significant and destructive disease affecting wheat crops all over the world, according to the National Library of Medicine. The scientific literature classified it as a potential agroterrorism weapon. According to the FBI, the complaint reports that Jian received Chinese government funding for her work on this pathogen in China. How much you want to bet our government funded it too? The complaint also alleges that Jian's electronics have information about her loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. Jian's boyfriend Liu researches the same pathogen at a Chinese university. Again, everybody's making a big deal about that loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party thing. That's actually fairly common for Chinese students studying in the United States. But the whole smuggling agroterrorism weapons, that is not your standard issue study abroad thing, believe it or not. I don't know. Maybe you get credits for that if you do it over the summer, like a little extra credit. Fungus smuggling going on there. I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box here. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for this. Maybe it was just some guy at a wet market ate a badger this time. Let's just make that up. And then the World Health Organization can get behind that story, and American big tech companies can censor anybody who says otherwise, and it'll be a great time, fun had by all. And then years from now, we'll all just look back on this and laugh. That's how this goes, right? Moving on, U.S. ADP employment change. Private businesses in the U.S. added 37,000 workers to their payrolls in May. That's the lowest since March of 2023, compared to a downwardly revised 60,000 in April and forecasts of 115,000. Big miss for private payrolls, at least in the ADP report. This number is not as important as Friday's jobs report, that non-farm payrolls from the BLS, but this is a good indicator. The services sector added 36,000 jobs, led by leisure and hospitality, financial activities, and information, while job losses occurred in professional and business services, education, health, and trade, transportation, and utilities. Also, the goods-producing sector lost 2,000 jobs as falls in natural resources, mining, and manufacturing offset a rise of 6,000 jobs in construction. All right, we are jamming now with that reshoring of American manufacturing. Meanwhile, annual pay growth for job stayers was little changed at 4.5%, and pay for job changers rose to 7%. Unchanged from April's revised figure. That's weird. It rose unchanged from April's revised figure. That's kind of poorly worded. After a strong start to the year, hiring is losing momentum. Pay growth, however, was little changed in May, holding at robust levels for both job stayers and job changers, said Dr. Nella Richardson, chief economist at ADP. So there you can see the jobs added, guys, and you can kind of see since last fall, the economy, the labor sector has been weakening here. Will that continue into Friday's jobs number? And also kind of important, yesterday, I mentioned this on Twitter. I should have put a screenshot and brought this up. Why is the Bureau of Labor Statistics pre-announcing a revision to the jobs numbers? I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. The BLS reported yesterday that there's going to be a change to last month's job numbers. Now, initially, that made me think, oh, wow, there's going to be a big downward revision. But then they came out later and said the change shouldn't be that big. So I don't really know what's going on with the jobs numbers here. Let's just say tomorrow's going to be interesting. Tomorrow morning, we get non-farm payrolls. Tune in tomorrow morning at the same time, and we will be going over those. But back on the ADP number here, the president is not happy about that. He took to Truth Social with his all caps and his typical colorful vernacular and says, ADP number out. Too late, Powell must now lower the rate. He is unbelievable. Europe has lowered 9 times. Maybe doing what Europe does, not such a good idea. Isn't the whole reason we're here because we didn't want to do what Europe does? I'm just throwing that out there. Europe does a lot of stuff wrong. I don't think we should be cutting 9 times. I don't think we should be cutting at all. I just want the Federal Reserve to do nothing. Now, did the Fed do everything they could to make things better, right? Conveniently timed rate cuts last fall. Yep, I get all that. I understand that. That doesn't mean now is the right time to cut. We still have an inflation problem that has suffocated the average American while making the elites incredibly wealthy. We don't need a return to that. Also, President Trump was on Truth Social talking about President Xi Jinping this morning, saying, I like President Xi of China, always have and always will, but he is very tough, all caps, and extremely hard to make a deal with. I don't know what to make of this. I really don't. A couple days ago, it was no more Mr. Nice Guy. Now he's doing everything but a reach around for President Xi here. I really don't know what's going on. Is he trying to flatter him into picking up the phone? There was some talk yesterday that that President Trump and President Xi are hopefully going to have a phone call later this week. Is he going to call me? Do I have to call him? That silly, petty high school back and forth is going on. Look, the whole smuggled fungus thing makes me not really care. It makes me want to say, screw China. You know what? They want to mess with our crop yields. How about we don't sell them any of our food? I'm just throwing that out there. Where are they going to get it? I don't know. I hear the Hungarians grow a lot of corn. Maybe get it from them. Also, Elon Musk blasts President Trump's tax bill as a budget-busting abomination. That is a mouthful there. Elon is not happy. Donald Trump ally Elon Musk lambasted the president's signature tax bill as a budget-busting abomination as Republican fiscal hawks stepped up criticism of the massive fiscal package. The tech titan's public condemnation pits him against the president at a critical time as Trump is personally lobbying holdouts of the bill. The remarks could stiffen resistance and delay enactment of tax cuts and the debt ceiling increase. He followed up on his attack, saying on X that the tax bill more than defeats all the cost savings achieved by the Doge team at great personal cost and risk. Remember, Elon lost a lot of money. Tesla took a lot of heat for what Elon did with Doge. In my opinion, what he was doing with those was the right thing for the country, because you may have noticed we have a little bit of a spending problem here. And if you don't think we have a spending problem here, just go back to your Bernie rally and have a lot of fun, my comrades. That being said, did Elon go about it the right way, or did he cut the right things? That's more than debatable, but you got to admit we have a spending problem. Elon comes in, his personal brand takes a huge hit while he tries to do this, and then the Republicans in Congress are like, thanks, we're going to do nothing with that, and then just make the problem worse. Elon is right to be pissed here. I'm pissed. Republicans always do this. They campaign about spending cuts and then they increase spending. That's why nobody believes you when you claim to give a shit about spending, Republicans. It's time to walk the walk. Also, U.S. mortgage holders are starting to tap into their record levels of home equity. This is kind of scary here, guys. U.S. mortgage holders carried a record $17.6 trillion in home equity entering the second quarter, with $11.5 trillion of that considered tappable. How many of you have got that letter in the mail talking about how much home equity you have and we'd love to loan you money against that? Apparently, a lot of people are doing that. The firm's data shows that second lien equity withdrawals increased by 22% year over year to nearly $25 billion in the first quarter. That is the largest first quarter volume in 17 years. That takes us back to 2008, the GFC. Oh, Melody is going to have a field day with this data point. I can just imagine what's going on over in the White House right now. Hi, Melody. Anyway, look, this is not a good indicator, guys. $25 billion that was spent into the economy last month was home equity withdrawals. That means that's debt. That means, again, GDP is being propped up by more and more debt, both public and private, and debt levels just continue to rise. See also this story about South Korean bonds pressured by Lee's agenda for fiscal spending, because debt levels are rising over in Asia too. Everybody's borrowing more. South Korean bonds are facing tougher times ahead as concerns grow about the country's left-leaning new president, that he will usher in an era of fiscal expansion accompanied by rising government debt. The ascent of Lee, who has repeatedly pledged to use stronger fiscal spending to spur economic growth, will likely intensify the reversal of a year-long bond rally that began last month. With a fresh stimulus package anticipated under his reign, there's a chance that government debt supply may expand further from the record size currently planned for this year. So they're already planning a record budget deficit, and it's going to get bigger. And the South Korean bond market, well, it's not happy. Look at these yields rising. Remember, guys, yields rising, that's bond prices falling. The South Korean 30-year up almost 13 basis points yesterday. You disregard this 50-year number, guys, because that's outdated. That goes all the way back to the 6th of February. The 20-year up 12 basis points. The 10-year up 8.5 basis points. The 5-year up almost 9. I mean, long duration South Korean bonds were just getting bludgeoned yesterday off of this election result, because they're going to borrow and spend more money. That means more bond supply. If demand stays the same, price goes down and interest rates go up. This is happening all over the freaking world. And of course, you know, the problem with debt and, you know, inflation making life unaffordable, you think that might have something to do with stories like this. Japan's fertility rate hits record low despite government push. I mean, I don't know, what is a government push to fix the fertility rate? Unless you're going to start passing out whiskey and Barry White albums, I'd rather the government just stay out of the whole business of what happens in the bedroom. But I digress. Japan's fertility rate declined in 2024 for the 9th consecutive year, reaching another historical low that underscores the immense challenge facing the government as it attempts to reverse the trend in one of the world's most aged societies. The total fertility rate, the average number of children a woman is likely to have over her childbearing years, fell to just 1.15, down from 1.2 the previous year, and marking the lowest rate in records going back to 1947, according to a health ministry release on Wednesday. The trend was particularly notable in Tokyo, where the rate was below 1 for the second year in a row. And guys, the replacement rate, the fertility rate that is required to maintain a stable population, is somewhere around 2.1, 2.2. I don't know the exact figure. It's above 2. And they're 1.15. The population in Japan is in free fall here. The total number of births dropped to about 686,000, marking the first time that figure has fallen below 700,000. Meanwhile, deaths totaled 1.61 million, leading to a net population decline of 919,000 and extending the annual drops in the country's population to 18 years. That data excludes migration, which is pretty much irrelevant for Japan because it's a very insular society. 18 years in a row, the population in Japan has been falling. That trend is accelerating. Guys, we need to start having babies. I say it often and loudly on this channel. Everybody, let's drink up and make bad decisions. Fate of the world depends on it. Meanwhile, Dollar Tree warns of a looming profit hit and shares decline. This is pretty interesting, this story about Dollar Tree. Note the difference between Dollar Tree and Dollar General here. Dollar Tree warned investors that its second quarter profit could be down as much as 50% from a year ago as it deals with tariff-related costs and a strained consumer. The retailer said the timing of expenses will weigh on adjusted earnings per share without giving specifics. The chain then expects profit to re-accelerate for the remainder of the year. The outlook pales in comparison to rival Dollar General. On Tuesday, its stock surged the most on record after raising its sales and profit guidance. While both are dollar chains, they're different. Dollar General generates about 80% of its sales from food and consumable goods, which are less reliant on imports. Dollar Tree, meanwhile, gets half of its revenue from those categories, making it more reliant on goods from other countries. So Dollar Tree's got a lot more tariff exposure than Dollar General. You'd think that the two would trade in tandem, but not even close. Now, Dollar Tree this morning, opening bell has rung. They are getting bludgeoned here, off by 7.74%. If you look, though, over the last year or so, Dollar Tree actually not doing so good, down about 20% over the last year. Dollar General, meanwhile, up 1% today. Yesterday, they were up big time. They had a great day yesterday. But if you look over the last year, even they are down about 19%. But Dollar General right now holding up a lot better than Dollar Tree because they are less exposed to those tariffs. And this one we've got to talk about. This story, again, guys, this just makes no sense. CoreWeave, enjoy it if you bought it. Congratulations. This is a zero long-term. Mark my words. If there's one thing this company is very good, it is transferring money from their investors' pockets to their own pockets. They have made bank doing this. Their benefactors at Magnetar Capital wrote the book on doing that. And here they are. Applied Digital and CoreWeave soars on massive $7 billion AI infrastructure agreement. Applied Digital shares surged about 48% on Monday after the company signed 2 long-term lease agreements with CoreWeave for artificial intelligence data centers. CoreWeave, backed by NVIDIA, saw its stock climb about 8% following the announcement. It was actually up about 25% yesterday. Ridiculous run. Under the deals, Applied Digital expects roughly $7 billion in rental revenue over approximately 15-year term, with lease payments set up front and an annual escalator regardless of project costs. So CoreWeave is going to rent the buildings from Applied Digital for $7 billion for 15 years. Then CoreWeave is going to put their NVIDIA chips, paid for by NVIDIA's money and Magnetar's money, in those data centers. Chief Executive Wes Cummins said the agreements advance the company's strategic push into advanced infrastructure compute. Now, here's the deal. Applied Digital loses money, so Applied Digital is going to have to borrow more money in order to meet the obligations of this deal. CoreWeave loses money, so CoreWeave is going to have to either issue shares or borrow more money in order to come up with the $7 billion that they're going to owe Applied Digital. So this big, massive deal between two companies that do nothing but burn their investors' capital, and everybody's like, yay, us, look at these stocks. CoreWeave was up 25% yesterday. It's up another 1.4% today, $152. This stock has nearly quadrupled from its IPO, even though its losses have doubled since its IPO. Make it make sense. I don't know, because Magnetar Capital. I don't know. But guys, I can tell you there's a short squeeze going on with CoreWeave shares right now. If you look at this thing since the IPO, it has just gone vertical. It's now valued at $72 billion, a company that does not make money. Good luck. Good luck with that one. Applied Digital also rallying up another 10% yesterday. It's up 35% in just the last 5 days. Again, this company does not make money. Best of luck to you guys on that one. And last but not least, we got to talk about this one. President Trump's Truth Social has filed for a Bitcoin ETF. Look, guys, politically, this is going to come back to haunt him. Let's be honest. We all know crypto winter is coming, right? I am a long-term Bitcoin bull. I know a lot of you guys hate Bitcoin on this channel, but we can all agree there is a massive price correction on the horizon in Bitcoin. I don't think anybody debates that. And what happens if you're a sitting president and you have invested so much political capital in crypto, up to including releasing your own shitcoin? What happens when the price crashes? Well, your reputation goes down with it. So politically, this is a blunder here. Now, from just a purely ethical standpoint, how in the world is the SEC or the CFTC or whoever's going to rule on this, how are they supposed to approve this? How does any SEC director actually act in a non-partial manner here when his boss owns the company that is asking to file a Bitcoin ETF? This is a conflict of interest. All right. And this should not be going on, right? What the president is doing with crypto, launching his own shitcoins, his own shitcoin wallets, now launching his own ETF. They just shouldn't be doing this. And if Biden was doing it, I'd be calling him out for it. So Trump's doing it, I'm going to call him out for it. And politically, this is a blunder as well, besides the whole ethical and legal consequences. This is just stupid because when the price of crypto crashes, everybody is going to be just blasting him with this. So you got that to look forward to. And that's probably going to happen sometime between now and October. And I just want to say thank you very much to Armando Reyes. What's up, Armando? He says, we're waiting for you, Jesus. Well, yeah, things get pretty dark before things get lighter, right? And, well, maybe that's the light at the end of the tunnel. My gut tells me it's a train, though. I could be wrong about that one. Thank you, Armando, for supporting the channel, sir. And John Sir says, CoreWeave, $150. Who knew losing money was so profitable? I'll tell you who knew. Michael and Trader knew. Jack Hogan knew. Brandon McBee, Brian Venturo, they all knew how profitable it was. They are making stupid bank while CoreWeave continues to burn money. Their CoreWeave's earnings, their losses doubled from a year ago. And shortly after that earnings report, CoreWeave took out several $billion in more debt. This company is further from profitability than they were a week ago, and their stock is going up because of it. Yep. But again, hey, profits. Well, it's a minute detail, right? Worrying about whether your company makes money. Just put Sam Altman on stage, give him one of those little microphones so it makes him look more techie, more TED talky. Have him say a thing like AI is doing its own science. Hold up a fake study from some a-hole at MIT to support what you're claiming, and then just sell a whole bunch more stock, and people will buy it. That's how it works, guys. That's how Silicon Valley does business. It's about selling a story. It has nothing to do with actually making money. Thanks again, John Sir. Armando's back. He says, they say that a candle burns its brightest right before it goes out. Okay, that is a possible analogy. Are we talking about CoreWeave here with the bright candle burning out? Are we talking about the 2020s? I don't know. There's a lot of metaphors here, but that candle's getting pretty bright in either regard. Thank you, Armando, for supporting the channel. He's come back. He says, if you know that the party's about to end, might as well go out with a bang. I have my glass of tea. Well, I can tell you if the party's about to end, I got a glass in my hand, but it ain't tea, brother. I'm thinking a little Basil Hayden's goes down smooth, a nice way to end the night. And then, of course, you wake up the next morning and you really regret that last glass that seemed like such a great idea at the time. Yeah, party will end eventually. But look, I don't do the when very well. You guys may have noticed. So, I get this question all the time. When market crash? When is the correction? When is the AI bubble going to burst? Guys, if I could tell you when, I would be a much wealthier man than I am. I can tell you what. I can't tell you when. Thanks again, Armando. M&J, thank you for gifting 10 Nobody Special Finance memberships. You are awesome, M&J. Thank you so much for everything you do for the channel. Guys, if you got one of those memberships, be sure and say thank you to M&J. She is swell like that. And welcome to the Melonheads. Feel free to use that one free super chat you get every month, and I will be happy to read and respond to your questions on the air, such as JJ Watt, who says, next restaurant to file for bankruptcy will be Dave & Buster's. Debt to equity ratio over 1,000%. Yikes. Family dining concept is gone. David, I've been to Dave & Buster's a few times. It's been a long time. That was one of those things when I was in college, like you just break the bank with one trip to Dave & Buster's. It was a lot of fun. It's not somewhere I would take the kids. I mean, I was going to the Dave & Buster's in Philly when I was in college an awful lot, and it's just not somewhere I'm going to take my kids to at all, ever. It was mostly adult drunks playing video games, not kids when I was there. But I agree with that statement. Dave & Buster's has got some serious financing issues that they need to overcome. Are they going to be the next? I don't know, but they are certainly at the front of that line. Thank you, JJ Watt, for supporting the channel. And thank you to Wally, who says, We are all in the last crypto cycle before being ushered into a new system. It will probably be done after a credit freeze. It's what the WEF calls the Great Reset. Most cryptos will go to zero. Whether the Great Reset happens or not, most cryptos will go to zero, as most cryptos have already gone to zero. That's why I don't touch altcoins ever. I buy Bitcoin and that is it. They are 99.99% of them go to zero, guys. I'm telling you. And, hey, if you're, whatever random name coin is up 1,000% this week, great, take your profits, because the founder is going to rug pull it. He's going to make a ton of money doing it at your expense. And look, the regulators are pulling back from this sector. I mean, when a sitting president can run a rug pull meme coin, guys, which is exactly what they did with Trump coin, anybody can do it. The SEC is not going to police that. So, it's the Wild West. So if you are going into the crypto space, you need to understand that you are wading into a wretched hive of scum and villainy where crime has, through lack of enforcement, been essentially legalized. And you are the fish at that table. So before you get into that, you need to understand that. That's the most important thing. And that's why I just don't get into altcoins at all for that reason. Thank you, Wally, for supporting the channel, sir. And thank you to Harmonair LLC, who says, what if Elon was in there to transfer data, look under the hood, to who know where it went? Why can't we look under the hood? There was a comment to this effect yesterday, Harmonair, about somebody claiming that like Elon stole a bunch of Pentagon data. I pulled the thread on that story yesterday. It's not a real story. First of all, it doesn't even involve the Pentagon. You've got one guy who is accusing Elon of stealing a bunch of data from the National Labor Relations Board, which is a pretty freaking far cry from the Pentagon, by the way. And it turns out that Elon did have Doge people at the NLRB, but what they were doing was looking for people to fire, and everybody in the office was freaking out, as the single whistleblower is claiming they were. And you've basically got one guy, one whistleblower who was at risk of losing his job, is claiming Elon Musk was sending data to the Russians. Considering how much BS has been, Trump, Elon plus Russia equals big bad, considering how much fake news has been created about that over the last couple of years, you just have to have a higher threshold, or a higher, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to demand a higher level of proof or confirmation before you buy into any of that crap these days, because there's just so much BS floating around about that. So was he transferring data? I don't know. Maybe he was. But I can tell you what he was doing. He was pointing out waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. And I'm sure he did something to help his own business interests while he was doing so. That being said, the big story here, guys, is you literally cannot cut spending. It's bordering on illegal to cut spending in this country now. And if that's the case, you better own some freaking gold. That's all I can tell you. That being said, be highly skeptical of any of this Russia washing crap that is going around on the internet. That's all I can tell you. I wasted a lot of time on that yesterday. Thank you, Harmonair LLC, for supporting the channel. Lircy says, can we hear Aunt Janet sing a country song? Nope. No, you can't. Aunt Janet doesn't listen to country, and Jack doesn't really listen to country anyway, because somehow Aunt Janet's singing about riding on her tractor and drinking her whiskey. Why she does it just doesn't quite fit. It doesn't go along with the whole motif. So, I appreciate the setup there, Lircy. And, man, if you guys are going to hit me with this random crap, like, I am not an improv comic. I am not going to be able to come up with that crap on the fly. Good God, that is a specific one. Johnny Yellens, and she thinks my tractor's sexy. Yep, okay. All right, good luck with that one, Janet. Thank you, Lircy, for the laugh this morning. Thank you, everybody, for having your coffee with the Melonheads. Watch out for that smuggled Chinese wheat fungus. We got 4.5 years of this decade left, and it's going to be great. You're going to love it. Thank you, guys. Don't forget that like button and the subscribe button on the way out, as well as thank you for all those super chats and my magnanimous Melonheads on YouTube and Patreon. You guys rock. Linked down below, should you feel so inclined. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I love you guys. Everybody, till next time, live small and dream big.